All right, folks, I am Michael Reiner and Pagani with me in studio. Fellas, how are we?
Fantastic. It's really ironic that it's cold in here because we're about to create some serious heat talking about some wrestling. It's the best time of the year, and we're excited. Right, Ben?
I'm ready to get sports entertained on Black Squirrel Radio.
Of course, Ben making his debut here on the show, so welcome, Ben, and hope that we get to see you around a lot more here. But, folks, let's get into it. So, as I said, as you guys know, in the group chat on Thursday after the show, I was fired up, okay? I was absolutely livid. But then I watched SmackDown on Friday, and I let the storyline kind of play out a little bit, and I was like, you know what? I see where they're going. Would it be the angle I would go? No. But what are your guys' thoughts on our new Universal Champion Goldberg?
Ben, do you want to go first?
Goldberg was good to go, what is it, 2020. 15 years ago, if Goldberg was the Universal Champion, I would have been okay with it. In 2020, when The Fiend was on one of the best heel runs in recent memory, to be destroyed by a part-timer who's setting up for Roman Reigns, a man I don't have strong opinions about, at WrestleMania. He's going to put Reigns over at WrestleMania at the cost of The Fiend's character. I couldn't hate it any more.
Well, guys, I think I would have to disagree because of two specific reasons. A lot of people in their complaints online, they said, it has nothing to do with the storyline. What does that mean? How does Goldberg come into play here? It does nothing. Well, listen up. It definitely does everything. And the reason for that is because if you kept up with the Bray Wyatt storyline for the past 6 months or so, every single person he feuded with, they went through a character change. Seth Rollins turned heel. Then it went to The Miz, turned heel. Daniel Bryan turned babyface. Through that whole feud, everybody went through a character change, guys. And listen up. With Bill Goldberg, just like in Algebra 1, 1 divided by 1 is 1, A divided by A is A, and Bill Goldberg divided by Bill Goldberg is Bill Goldberg. Bill Goldberg is a babyface. He's the ultimate warrior of this generation. And if you have the opportunity to give him the world championship and have him feud with Roman Reigns as the last match of your show, I think that you do it. And another thing is, The Undertaker, a guy who's a supernatural character. It took him 20 years to main event WrestleMania consistently. We're only in the first 12 months of Bray Wyatt. This isn't dominated. Everything all had to come around to John Cena at this show, and I think it doesn't have to be for the title, but I just want to hear your thoughts.
Okay, so, Mike, first of all, I don't think that Goldberg and Reigns are going to main event the show. I still believe that Drew Lesnar is going to main event WrestleMania. And I think the reason for that, I think me and you have kind of talked about this before, I have always believed that no matter what, the Royal Rumble winner should main event WrestleMania. That's what it's advertised as. The Royal Rumble winner gets the main event shot at WrestleMania. And I think the way they've been building this, because if you think about it, this WrestleMania is going to be a long night, right? Is Goldberg and Roman Reigns, to me, it's almost going to be a Lesnar and Roman situation from a couple years ago, where by midnight, the crowd's going to be bored, and that match may not last long. It may only be a 5-minute match, where I think McIntyre and Lesnar could put on a good match, because I think McIntyre's one of those guys that Lesnar wants to work with.
Lesnar against Drew McIntyre reminds me of a very similar situation. I think about the first time Brock Lesnar fought somebody who is a very athletic person. First time he wrestled someone very athletic. Seth Rollins versus Cena versus Lesnar at the Royal Rumble in, I believe, 2015 or 2016. 2015. And I feel like Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre are two very similar types of wrestlers. Now, Drew McIntyre's a bigger guy overall, but Lesnar and Rollins always put on some pretty solid matches. I think Drew McIntyre is a better wrestler than Seth Rollins is. I think Seth Rollins also has the character arc that Drew McIntyre hasn't completely got, but I think when it comes to terms of a wrestling match, they have the Royal Rumble to build off. They don't need him to have a huge character. They have, well, Drew McIntyre won the Royal Rumble. What else does he need to do? Now he's up against Lesnar. I'm excited for that to be a big event, but I don't think it'll be the main event because I know how this company works. Think about other people who have won the Royal Rumble. Did they go on to main event WrestleMania? When Sheamus won the Royal Rumble in 2012, I believe, right? him and Daniel Bryan was the first match of the card. I'm just saying, they don't have to put them as the main event. They say it, but we know the reality of it.
But I think the difference is, real quick, and then I'll let you jump in, Mike. The difference with that is, Rock and Cena was clearly bigger than Daniel Bryan and Sheamus.
I agree.
I don't think Roman Reigns and Goldberg is that much bigger than McIntyre and Lesnar.
I agree. Bill Goldberg, you said he was the ultimate warrior, Mike. You said he was the ultimate warrior of this generation. Bill Goldberg was the Bill Goldberg of the ruthless aggression era. Not whatever you want to call this today. All right? It's just not. The network era, whatever people have been calling it, whatever.
I like your arguments here, and I like Drew McIntyre's build here. I just think, this is an agreement with Fox. This is an agreement with national networks here, and whether we like it or not, it's not Drew McIntyre. It's not Bray Wyatt. They don't bring the casual fan in around WrestleMania season. This is the big time, and you need to bring in a legend, a Hall of Famer like Bill Goldberg, and you need to make that the main event of the show. It would work because it is a short match. A lot of the time we have complaints of, that match was too long and everybody was so exhausted at the end of the show. I think that at the end of the day, it's going to get heat because people don't understand the ramifications of what happened. And at the end of the day, that's a bigger match. Goldberg and Roman Reigns is a bigger match. They decided to not put it on Super Showdown because of it, and I think that was the whole plan all along. And yeah, but I mean, as far as Drew McIntyre and Brock Lesnar goes, I'm excited for this match, but what I'm excited for is what they do after. If they decide to put the belt on Drew, who are they going to make his opponents? I'm really excited for this build-up and what happens after, guys.
Real quick, who do you think it is?
Who do I think is going to win?
Takes on McIntyre. If McIntyre wins, who's there for McIntyre?
Who's there for McIntyre to face? Well, that's a tough one. I definitely don't want to see Baron Corbin again. That would be awful. I mean, that was really what broke down Seth Rollins' whole trajectory, was that. Maybe, somebody like Buddy Murphy or somebody like Seth Rollins. I mean, I think Seth Rollins has to be first, but wouldn't it be a cue if they put Murphy in there or if they put Kevin Owens in there? I think it would be cool to see Kevin Owens maybe turn back heel because I think that the Kevin Owens babyface turn only has so much legs. I think you've got to clearly develop faces and heels for Raw to make the summer interesting. So
let me ask you guys, because I was thinking about this. What about AJ Styles? Because there's not, after AJ faces Taker at WrestleMania, which I'm expecting Taker to win that match, there's not a lot. AJ can look strong in that match and still lose and still move on to the WWE Championship. Because right now, there's not a lot of big contenders on Raw, and there's not a lot more that I think AJ could do. I think Rollins and Murphy and AOP, they're all still kind of stuck in this storyline. Will it end at WrestleMania? Probably, but they're still stuck in this faction. Where AJ, even though he's with the OC, he has really nothing to do right now. It's why he's facing The Undertaker at WrestleMania. So why not? I don't believe we've ever seen AJ and McIntyre in WWE. Why not do it? Why not that be your Money in the Bank WWE Championship match?
I totally agree there, but another thing I just thought of, McIntyre's old tag team partner Dolph Ziggler, that kind of blew up at last year's Rumble and nobody ever really discussed it. It was a steel cage match and then it was a Royal Rumble finish and nobody ever discussed it. I like that idea about AJ Styles at Money in the Bank, but then you've got to have Ziggler in there as a buffer because I think that would be a lot of fun. Well, what do you think, Ben?
Go on, Ben.
I think Ziggler will always bring a great talent. I think the crowds always love Dolph Ziggler, but do you want to throw him in a main event all of a sudden? I mean, I don't know. I think you have to go a different character arc with him than what we're used to, and I think there's nothing better than a heel Dolph Ziggler as a champion. I get that Drew McIntyre is, if he gets the title, I'm expecting he is. I think everybody is at this point. I don't think it's going to be that short of a run. Usually face champions have the shorter runs, but I think they kind of let him go for a little bit because this is his first world title run. Dolph Ziggler's had one in the past. Styles had a really long one in the past for a face. And so I think he just kind of keeps going for a little bit. I say he holds on to it at least till SummerSlam before we jump into maybe Dolph Ziggler coming in at that point. I don't think it's going to be an immediate overturn.
See, now, I am in the minority right now. I actually think Lesnar's going to retain. I don't think they put the title on McIntyre yet. And I thought about it. It's because this past Monday on Raw, McIntyre looked really, really strong. We have never seen a guy jump Lesnar like that early on in their feud. It's always Lesnar attacking first. Now McIntyre has attacked first. And so usually, and this is the pattern that I've noticed, it's not always true, but what I find is usually the guy that hits first actually loses the match. And I think that, we talked about it. There's not a lot of heels on Raw. You can make a case for maybe Randy Orton and McIntyre. Obviously, Randy's on a roll right now. But I think Lesnar could face, a guy like Kevin Owens. If you want to keep the Kevin Owens face thing going, you could have him face Brock Lesnar. We also need to figure out, are they going to do a superstar shakeup? Are they going to do another drought right after WrestleMania? Because we just had one in October. So right now, I'm looking at it as just the guys on Raw. And I think, to be honest, McIntyre's really good. But McIntyre can still take the title away, maybe at SummerSlam or somewhere else. He doesn't. I don't think necessarily McIntyre has to win the title here.
I'm with you here, Brandon. Honestly, I'm not really concerned with what happens at WrestleMania. I'm worried about what happens in the months that follows. And I like your idea about Brock Lesnar and Kevin Owens. People have been talking about that for 5 years. I'd like to see it. I
think they need to stay away from a superstar shakeup because at this point it's kind of ludicrous to keep doing them every half year or so. I think when it comes to WrestleMania, I think McIntyre does walk away. I think he's champion until at least SummerSlam. But at the same exact time, Raw needs to make somebody heel. And I don't know if that happens the night after Mania. Maybe something happens at Mania. Who knows what's going to happen. I think the rated RKO match that we're going to get, I think that's going to be a lot of fun. But after that's over, Edge is going to go in one direction and Orton's going to go in another. So maybe Orton's ready to turn around directly after Mania and go at Money in the Bank.
Could you see a heel Randy Orton winning Money in the Bank? Like the role that Randy Orton's on right now, because the first time he won it, he didn't really have a long cash in. It was more of a face thing, and then he turned heel when he cashed in on Daniel. I think a heel Randy Orton with the briefcase would be so much fun, and let him just milk it because he's such a great teaser. He would do so well in that role, teasing both Lesnar, who, by the way, he has a history with. And we know Randy Orton doesn't like heels or faces, so that could work even if he is a heel. And McIntyre, who, as we saw before Randy Orton turned heel, it looked like Randy Orton and McIntyre had some tension.
Would you like to see Edge in another Money in the Bank ladder match if he's good to go? And those two be the last two coming in.
So you know me, end. You know I am the biggest Edge head in the world.
Of course.
For Edge's safety, no.
Okay. I kind of thought the same thing.
I was thinking about it. I'm like, can we not risk this man's neck, please? Right. There's no reason for him to be in a ladder match ever again, in my opinion.
Well, I think it would be cool if you play around with the spots a little bit. If you have him go up at the top of the ladder, and then you have a soft ending where he hits the rope, and then you would end up putting somebody else over. In that case, it might be Randy Orton. That would be a heck of a match. Way better than last year's Money in the Bank match, if you guys remember.
Or he just turns heel and runs up the ladder, almost like how Lesnar did last year. He just comes in at the end and wins the briefcase.
I don't know if an old Edge could be a heel. I don't know if that could work unless it's with the right guy.
He's still got the character, though. He's still got that meanness in him. I think it could work.
He's got the character, but I think at this point right now, the fans want to enjoy having Edge back, and I think they want to enjoy having Edge to root for. If he's a heel, who knows who they put him up against? If it's going to be a great match, if he can perform to a great match, we'll find out at WrestleMania. And I think he looked good at the Royal Rumble for, not being in a ring for
he looked great
years.
For not being in a ring for 9 years.
Exactly. But we're saying, okay, Money in the Bank, they can work him in spots. The fans are going to love seeing Edge in a ladder match. People will buy it who haven't watched in a long time because they hear, Edge, who I used to love watching in ladder matches as a kid, I can swing $9.99 for 1 month of watching Edge again. And they're not going to make him do anything ludicrous. They're going to work with the spots, and it's going to look like he's doing something crazy, but it's not going to do anything crazy at all. They have good enough writers to do something like that.
I totally agree. And also with the different feuds, I'm excited to see where Edge goes after this. You have so many different opponents that you could pair him up with in the coming months. You could have Kevin Owens, a Canada-born guy, going up against his idol and Edge. You could have Adam Cole and him feud once Adam Cole gets up to the main roster. There's so many possibilities. I don't know. We have more time to talk about this leading up to WrestleMania, but I think there's more matches in Edge. The guy signed a 3-year deal. There's so many young guys that were on the roster that weren't there 8-9 years ago, and this is the time to pull the trigger on those matches.
So, speaking of writing and booking, you two are big fans of All Elite Wrestling and NXT. I particularly do not like that style of wrestling. I know you guys think I'm crazy. So what is it that draws you guys to the AEW NXT style versus the main roster WWE style that most fans, I guess, enjoy?
It's something new. It's something so new. And that's why the main card, your typical Raw and SmackDown every single week has just gotten so boring and drawn out, is because it's the same characters looping back around every single year, and it seems like either Rollins or Reigns is in the main event for the last, 6 years now? At least it's not as repetitive as Cena being in there. Seriously. But what else is underneath him? You're starting to develop Ricochet. It took you finally, this long to get to Drew McIntyre. You had to completely redevelop Bray Wyatt, and that got exciting, but you had like a 7-year stale period with him, okay? It's kind of the same thing, routinely. Whether or not Kevin Owens is a face or a heel, whether or not The Miz is a face or a heel, whether or not anybody cares what else is going on, whether or not Baron Corbin still sucks, but he's a great heel because everybody hates him, and it's what it should be. It's still boring. It's like stale bread that's been left in Mike's pantry for 6 months in between every single AEW pay-per-view that we like to watch. AEW is wrestlers that I have always enjoyed watching finally in a U.S. market that I don't have to, get a Veep and watch in my room on my laptop. I can finally just turn on TNT, and I'm ready to watch Kenny Omega and Adam Page. Adam Page is my favorite wrestler in the whole world. And then NXT, sure, it's still under Vince McMahon's big brand, especially now that he's in charge. But at the same time, you get to see these different characters that you would never, ever see succeed on a main roster. Okay? Velveteen Dream is so much fun. We've been talking about him for a year. This guy dresses up like Prince, and he's one of the best wrestlers I've ever seen. That doesn't succeed on the main card. Think about people like Adam Rose, okay? Adam Rose was so much fun to watch. He finally gets up. Nobody could stand him. Sami Zayn. Everybody was so excited for him. Him and Cesaro put on the best matches I had ever seen in NXT. They both got up, and, it just kind of fell flat. Tyler Breeze. Who didn't love Tyler Breeze, all right? He was the biggest jerk in the world. He walked around with a selfie stick. He got up to the main roster, and the casual fans said, I don't get it. And then he just kind of died. He was a good wrestler. He was a good character. But the main card is where these underused talents go to die.
I don't know. I think that's a little bit extreme, Ben, but I totally agree with Ben's in-ring portion of it. But as far as Wednesday nights and Wednesday in general for me, Wednesday as a fan is when I feel inspired, gentlemen. And it's not just because of what happens from 8 to 10 on USA Network and TNT. It's about what happens throughout the day. It's about the spirit of competition. You have WWE After the Bell competing with AEW's new podcast. They both drop on Thursday. And then you have all these different avenues for digital content on YouTube from both brands. On YouTube, you have all the things that the Elite are doing that prep up these shows. On NXT side, you have Triple H doing his Facebook Lives after every takeover to give people recaps. I just think that's what adds to it. Combine that with tons of young talent, infused with, 35, 40-year-old guys that you wouldn't even think would be 35 or 40-year-old guys on NXT and AEW. Who would have thought Kenny Omega is 36? Keith Lee is 35. These guys are talented at what they do in the digital platforms throughout the entire day, not just from 8 to 10, help them in all aspects of their characters and what they do on television.
I think my biggest draw to AEW especially is they are so unafraid to do anything that Vince McMahon is afraid to pull the card on. Afraid to pull the trigger, whether or not it's Cody Rhodes jumping off the moonsault, whether or not you're having triple threat falls count anywhere matches where you're seeing half your opponents get thumbtacks put in their mouth and then thrown up against a wall, okay? It's fun. It's hard to watch, but if you're a wrestling fan and you want to see something crazy happen that you've never seen before, AEW is not afraid to go there because they give the fans what they want. They have the wrestlers that the fans want to see. They have the characters the fans want to see. and it's just fun. And everybody believes in it because it's a different it's an alternative. That is the biggest thing. You know why people listen to alternative music? Because it's different than what's on the radio. It's what they want to hear, and it's not mainstream, but it's what they want. Right? Same goes for pro wrestling. Everybody can turn on Raw and SmackDown, but you're going to have the same story arcs forever, and it just loops around every single year. Okay, we know SummerSlam's in August, Survivor Series, Thanksgiving weekend. You have the Rumble in January, you have Mania in April and March, and then it's just back to the drawing board, and how's it going to loop around next year? Every single Wednesday on AEW, I have no idea what's going to happen. I don't know what direction they're going to go in. They only have a few pay-per-views every single year, and it's always a great build-up.
And, were you good? Anyways, and it's all just about what's going to happen. I mean, we had the opportunity, Ben and I, to go to a Pittsburgh show a few months back, and it was episode 4, I think, of Dynamite. And
he said it was going to be the worst show yet. And it was the best to that point.
It was definitely the best at that point. Maybe the best of the fall season was that show, and it was unbelievable because we actually got to see the fight in the crowd happen between the Inner Circle and the Nightmare Family, and it was awesome. And I think that the different avenues that they try to explore week after week after week really helps. I think that the fact that both shows are 2 hours really helps, and I think just the unpredictability of it. The competition provides that every match on that show is supposed to deliver, and it does on both shows.
Yeah, I understand both of your points. I think the difference really is you guys are hardcore wrestling fans, right? You guys can watch wrestling, 7 days a week probably, 24 hours a day if you really wanted to. That's not me, okay? I am a person that can only watch so much. I can only watch 1 to 2, at max 3 days most of wrestling. And I just feel like that, you watch Raw, you watch SmackDown, you watch NXT, you watch AEW, and I know I mentioned this.
I don't watch Raw and SmackDown. Not often.
See, and that's the thing, you guys don't, and I do. So I get exhausted by the time Wednesday comes, because to me it's too much wrestling.
I get that. There was a point when the network first started, okay, and I think Main Event was on Ion Television, and they had so much stuff going on. It seemed exhausting. Raw just switched to 3 hours, which is still crazy. I can't believe they're still doing it to this point. But if you're just watching the main roster, you have 5 hours worth of content every single week, and that's too much.
Well, I think the different avenues for other content present themselves. There's tons of promotions out there on YouTube, that kind of a thing. You've got the NWA. You've got MLW down there in Florida with Court Bauer. You have all these different promotions that now have the ability to move forward. And what's going to happen with WWE? They're going to create more talent, more programming to filter that out. And unfortunately, there's so many hours of wrestling that I think people get tired of it and people complain. But I think what people need to realize is that wrestling is a business. Whether or not your favorite wrestler is going to be get over and go to the top and be the man, there's no reason to find complaints and everything. If you just watch the shows and you understand what's going on from a performer's perspective. I've never seen so many people complain about The Undertaker beating AJ Styles with a chokeslam.
Tell me about it, I know.
But you've got to remember, Undertaker's wanted to work with AJ Styles.
Exactly. Thank you. Can we stop with this nonsense
of just people complaining just for the sake of complaining? The Undertaker is by and large, probably the greatest of all time as far as longevity and characters and suspense. I get goosebumps just watching him go to the ring.
Exactly. Can we just stop with this nonsense of people complaining about every little thing? It's like, one guy loses, like Ricochet loses to Brock Lesnar, he's buried. Can we just let storylines play out? Can we just stop complaining about everything? Clearly, they have a plan, even with Goldberg and The Fiend. We may not like it. They has a plan. We all have plans. We may not like it at the end of the day what the plan is. But even when we talk about the great, era in WWE, the Ruthless Aggression era, the Attitude era, some of those storylines back then were terrible.
And some of these things, some of the guys are thriving today. You think about a guy like Randy Orton and what he did on Monday. The stuff he's doing right now with Edge is the best heel work I've ever seen of Randy Orton.
I agree.
I don't know, Ben. I don't know, Ben, if you've gotten to see it, but I think it is.
I have looked at the little raw clips online, and I've enjoyed it. The whole Beth Phoenix thing the other day, that's dynamite. I love that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, really with Randy Orton, he's always had that in him, even with those facials and all those great things. What do you think about Edge and Randy Orton? I mean, if you were booking this, how would you do it, Brandon?
So if I'm booking it, Edge obviously goes over. I've seen some people speculate, and some people said this match should be the main event of WrestleMania. I have legit seen some people say that.
If it was, I'd be happy. I wouldn't be opposed to it, but I'm saying if it's not, it's also not like, oh, well. But if they do it, I'd be like, oh, that's kind of cool.
So if I'm booking it, to me, Edge wins, because you can't have his first singles match back, have him lose. Now, they have done crazy things in the past.
They announced Batista the week before the Royal Rumble instead of just having him come out as a surprise entrance in the Royal Rumble and turning him heel. Sorry.
It is not out of the question that Randy Orton could win. We need to stop with this notion that 100% this guy's going to win, because it's just not true anymore. They like to swerve us, and I think me and Mike have talked about this before. It feels like at least on every pay-per-view, including WrestleMania, there's always that one match. I think last year was the Kurt Angle-Corbin match. Everybody was like, oh, Kurt Angle's going to win. Corbin won. There's always that one match that could get swerved. This year it could be Randy. I think there's a lot of options this year that I'm really looking forward to. You know, I've stopped doing this thing where, like, if I'm booking, this is what I would do for the most part. Now, the major storylines, like, again, The Fiend, I have my opinions on it, but I get the direction they're going. But, you know, I'm just sitting there, and like I said, you know, I watch 3 hours of Raw, 2 hours of SmackDown every week. I'm fine with it, and I'm just enjoying it, and to me, it's been, you know, there are improvements that need to be made. I'm not sitting here saying this is the greatest thing ever. But what I am saying is, if you've actually taken the time to watch Raw and SmackDown over the past couple of months, I have seen vast improvement from what it was just a year ago when we were sitting in this seat.
Well, I mean, it's also WrestleMania season. You have to put that in perspective as well. But, I mean, I think as far as integrating legends in there, they've really done a great job. I'm more excited about this year's build than I was last year.
All right, guys, so I do want to ask you guys one last question. It is not a wrestling question. So you guys are obviously Steelers fans.
Yes, okay, with a whole heart. I would never imagine being anything else.
Right, I mean, Yinzer Nation, Permani sandwiches, all in that.
So, you know, when you guys hear the talk about Brady leaving New England, obviously the Patriots have been your guys' biggest obstacle on your way to the Super Bowl. When you guys hear that, your thoughts are, yay, he's gone, we might have a chance? Or, like, what are your thoughts when you think of Brady leaving New England?
Brady is leaving at a point where the Steelers are not guaranteed an AFC North once every at least 3 years now. We don't know what's going to happen when Big Ben comes back. I think it'll be fine. I'm curious to see how Juju plays, but I think the Ravens are the lock for the next 2 or 3 years in the AFC North. And that means the Steelers have a tougher hill to climb, which means do they even get to the point where they have to worry about the Patriots anymore? I don't think so. I personally think Brady is going to Vegas. I think he's going to go there. Who knows what happens? I know a lot of people are saying maybe he's going to go to the Niners and get Jimmy G in, which is starting to get serious talk, which is the biggest Bill Belichick move ever, that he sent Garoppolo off, got him Super Bowl, Jeez, oh man.
Super Bowl experience.
Experience. That's the word.
I never even thought about that, Ben. You're completely right. It's almost like
the evil empire.
It's a WWE heel turn.
It is.
Almost,
Absolutely.
We're just like, yo, I'm going to send you to this place. It's like when the NBA team does at the trade deadline when they want somebody
exactly
back. They go, we're going to send you here for half a year so we can compete for a championship.
This is like the plot of the movie Draft Day when they trade everybody away and then that's how they get it at the end.
Yep.
I think Brady is gone. I don't think he's going back to New England, but I don't think the Steelers are ever going to have to worry about facing them because I just don't think, they're at the end of Big Ben's career. He's got 2 more years. I don't think they get back to the AFC Championship. Who knows if they even make the playoffs? I don't even think they have a run at winning the AFC North. I think they'll be consistent, maybe get a wild card in one of these last 2 years. I don't think they'll ever have to worry about the Patriots in this era.
So, Mike, from a Steelers perspective, go ahead.
Well, I think that at the end of the day, you've got to look at it as how good can this young defense get for the Pittsburgh Steelers? You have Minka Fitzpatrick, you have Devin Bush. Those two guys were acquired with the trade from Antonio Brown. And Antonio Brown has done nothing since that trade. I personally believe that the Steelers can stop Lamar Jackson because typically when you have that great rookie year, you go through a slump, and maybe Lamar Jackson could go through that slump. As far as what competition the Steelers will have to face, I think that it's not going to matter that Tom Brady is in the twilight of his career because we have another amazing quarterback named Patrick Mahomes who's going to fit right into that position. But over to Brady, I think that if he's going, I think he's going to go the Tennessee Titans. When he has the ability to go to a teammate's team as his coach and be there with a top defense, one of the best running backs in the game, and possibly recruit more free agents to come play with him. I think as far as a team, the best team option might be Tennessee. Obviously, the 49ers are in that conversation, but a lot would have to be done for that to happen. I think it's interesting. We're going to see how it plays out, and all I know is I'm glad that we don't have to see Brady anymore because...
See, that's the answer I've been looking for. Are you guys glad you're not going to see Brady?
Yes, sir.
Game recognizes game, but all we know is Jesse James caught the ball in the end zone.
I know that Jesse James caught that ball.
That's factual.
I'll never forget it.
That's factual.
By rule, it was an incomplete pass.
Yeah, but then the same exact play happened in the Super Bowl, and the Eagles got the touchdown.
No, because he was a runner, and he was already across the goal line. James was not a runner in that play. He was not a runner. He was stationary. Ertz was a runner. It's different rules, fellas.
Oh, no.
Not anymore, it's not. And that rule was made because of that situation.
Yes,
I just want to point out that the NFL realized that they were wrong because of that single play.
They never said.
Here's what I care about. Tom Brady's last play ever in New England was a pick six, and I watched it, and I was happy. And there is a song by the band Parquet Courts called Total Football, and the last lyric to that song, I can't say on TV or on the radio, but
you're so used to saying TV. It's
expletive, Tom Brady, and that is how I have always felt as a Pittsburgh Steelers fan.
All right, sounds good. Hey, guys, do you guys have any social media and stuff that you guys want to shout out real quick?
At TV2Mike on Twitter, and also follow me on Facebook and Instagram. My One Step at a Time columns have been really well. And
yes, I have been reading them. They've been terrific, so shout out to you, Mike.
And things are going to really heat up with the next couple weeks. A lot of personal stories that really define my life, and it's going to be an awesome time telling them.
You can follow me on Twitter at Ben Pagani TV, BenPagani TV. I know you won't, but if you decide to, tell me you heard me on Brandon's World. I'll feel good about that, and I think Brandon will maybe want to have me back on. I had a lot of fun today. You can always tune in to Mac College Basketball on ESPN+. I'll be calling the Kent State game tonight. It's going to be a huge one. We really hope you tune in. I look forward to being back here, though, Brandon. Thanks for having me on.
Sounds good. I appreciate it. Thank you, fellas. All right.
Thanks, Brandon.
Enzo Orlando coming up next, time hour 2, right here on Brandon's World.